Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast. Here with your hosts, Jacob Smedley,
Sam Betts,
Justin Reedhammer,
and Nathan Romanot.
Our topics today include the World Series is finally over. We're here to break it all down, and one of us projected the winner correctly. Who is that? We'll find out in a few moments. An NFL update around the league. We're nearly halfway through the season, maybe even a little over halfway. We're going to give our thoughts on how everything is shaken out, maybe a little revisit of those early season predictions, and some college football big games as bowl season and conference championship season is right around the corner. Now, here is Sam Betts. Sam, baseball is now over as we creep into the middle of November, and a new champion, or a champion from 4 years ago, is back on top of the baseball world.
Yeah, Jake, we have the LA Dodgers who beat the Yankees pretty handedly, I must say, in 4-1. Dodgers came in, did business. We're going to break down the game by game here and just kind of see that while everyone kind of thought like the Yankees were a pretty big powerhouse, they did not show up really for this World Series, and it was kind of surprising.
Now, hold on, Sam. Hold on. Before you continue, I think one of us predicted the winner correctly. Nate, the Dodgers won it. Nate, we got Nate a victory toy here. Congratulations.
You know, I usually don't speak much on baseball, but I did get that correct. I'm pretty proud of myself. Not obviously as a Phillies fan though, not what I would have wanted, but I'm sure as you'll talk about, Sam, I think they were clearly probably the best two teams when it came down to the final and postseason. And I know that the World Series itself was short, only 5 games, but there were some competitive games in there. Some very close, good games. So it was still fun to watch. I did watch the majority of it, and I was happy with the outcome because I do despise the Yankees. So.
Yeah, as we kind of go on in here, looking at Game 1, the Dodgers took this one 6-3, and it came down to the wire for the Dodgers. But Freddie Freeman's a bad man. 2 for 5 on the day with a walk-off grand slam, and I believe it was the first one in World Series history that they mentioned that happened. I mean, we're going to hear Freddie Freeman's name a lot as we go down through these games, but he was a very big proponent of this Dodgers offense for sure. It's also nice when you have some pretty good pitching. Jack Flaherty going 5 1/3 innings, only 2 earned runs and 6 strikeouts, so a pretty good day on the mound for him. Giancarlo Stanton for the Yankees, he was a pretty big proponent of their offense, going 2 for 5 with a 2-run home run. Garrett Cole pitched really well for this Yankees team. He had 2 opportunities to pitch, and he pitched pretty well in both of them. For this one, he went 6 innings, 1 earned run, 4 Ks. But we kind of go to the Yankees bullpen in this situation. We have Jake Cousins and Nestor Cortez. They kind of came in. They only both pitched a third of an inning. Both were kind of charged with the 2 earned runs that kind of led to Freddie Freeman's walk-off grand slam, and Jake Cousins was set up with the loss. But this Yankees pitching, other than really Garrett Cole, struggled against the Dodgers.
Yeah, Sam, and little tidbit there. Jake Cousins, the cousin of Kirk Cousins. Say that 5 times fast. Saw that cool stat there. But anyways, on the game, just going to Freddie Freeman's moment, and we'll talk about, I guess, with these other games as well. Just a postseason performer at its finest. Saw it in 2021 with the Braves, what he was able to do, and just coming up clutch again for this Dodgers team. And I mean, battling the injury against the Mets, where he was, he was hobbling around the field. It looked like trying to run things out on a really bad ankle, and then in that World Series really didn't affect him. He was locked in, and just the Statue of Liberty bat hold, the call, the Kurt Gibson-like home run, remarkable for him to step up in that moment for someone that has gone through so much this season with his son, having surgery and such a toll on him throughout the year. Great to see. And, I don't go against Aaron Boone with his moves there. I mean, you really want that lefty against Freeman, but the player made the hit in that moment, and you got to give it to him.
Yeah, he definitely trying to go for the smart move there, and also trying to bring in one of your starting guys, one of the guys who you always on that fifth day when they come out, they're going to perform pretty well, but having them come out of the bullpen no less, but it just didn't kind of work out for the Yankees in that way. Looking at game two, this was a pretty pivotal game. The Dodgers still won 4-2. Juan Soto, 2 for 4, had a solo home run. Now, this is the guy who coming to play for this Yankees team, thought he was going to be kind of the game changer, and he definitely tried to help out this Yankees team with that solo home run. Giancarlo Stanton, too, with an RBI single. Giancarlo really kind of came through for this Yankees team in a lot bigger way than he had through like the regular season and some of the past seasons where he's had a lot of injuries. He kind of came through for this Yankees team and really tried to kind of keep them in the game each time. But Carlos Rodon going 3 1/3 with 4 earned runs, 3 Ks, and 3 home runs. I mean, this is going to be a theme with this Yankee starting pitching. Just did not go the way they wanted it to. For the Dodgers, Teoscar Hernandez 2 for 4 with a 2 run home run, and Tommy Edman, the NLCS MVP, coming up clutch with the solo home run, and then Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the rookie from Japan. 6 1/3 innings, one earned run and 4 Ks. But this was a pivotal moment because Shohei was actually injured while trying to steal second base. He subluxed his shoulder, which means that he dislocated it for a short amount of time, and then it was able to relocate itself. Not a full dislocation where you can't get it back in, but just that quick dislocation. It was kind of a concern whether he would actually be able to play for the rest of the World Series, but he was medically cleared. I'm going to put that in quotation marks because we'll talk about that later, because it was found that he did actually have a labral injury, which is the kind of like the little thing that goes kind of around the head of your humerus, your arm bone. It kind of entraps that. I'm going a little bit of anatomy lesson, but
I was gonna say we're getting into the weeds here of Sam's major, college major and graduation here.
yeah, just kind of
Great stuff, Sam.
just giving a little bit of context to everything. But yeah, he was cleared to play in the rest of the World Series, and he did play in Game 3, which was kind of a interesting decision. But I mean, in a stage like that, if they're able to swing a bat, still able to play, then go for it.
You get all those months off, Sam. He'll be all right in January, February, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully, have a good surgeon, have a good rehab team, and you'll be good to go. Game 3 is kind of the same. It's kind of the same thing. Dodgers 4, Yankees 2. And I want to point this out because in this game, the Yankees used 8 pitchers and the Dodgers used 7 pitchers. But still, like that Yankees pitching just really couldn't get them kind of where they wanted to go, because Clark Schmidt, one of the starting pitchers for the Yankees, 2 1/3 with 3 earned runs, 4 walks, 3 Ks, and a home run. And again, this Yankee starting pitching just did not go for them. They didn't really have anyone who could just come out and just even keep a lead or just keep a hold of these guys. Obviously, the bullpen was able to kind of work on that, but the starting pitching just did not work for them. But Walker Buehler coming in.
I think one of the things, too, Sam, about that is you have to give credit to the Dodgers, too, and we saw it in that Mets series going back out of the World Series and in that championship series. The Mets pitchers going even to the Phillies that we saw got a lot of chase, a lot of quick strikeouts. The Dodgers are not that kind of team. With Mookie Betts, with Max Muncy, with Freddie Freeman, they will take their walk. Tommy Edman, as you mentioned as well, saw a lot of that as well. Working counts, forcing the pitchers to bring the ball back into the middle of the zone, around the corners, and you saw that with the Mets, where a lot of walks happened. Same thing with the Yankees there in the World Series. A lot of walks, long counts. Clark Schmidt, I think, had like 70 pitches in the 3rd inning, and that was part of his early exit. So this lineup, top to bottom, really worked the opposing pitchers all postseason long and really came to fruition in that World Series.
And again, like Freddie Freeman, like we bring up his name again, another 2-run home run. But Giancarlo Stanton still, again, he still went 2 for 4, still kind of getting on base there. Alex Verdugo had a 2-run home run, the only runs that were scored for this Yankees. But then we go into Game 4, and we go to we're in Yankee Stadium for Game 3. We're in Yankee Stadium for Game 4. But boy, even though the Dodgers were up 3-0, did the Yankees like show up? And which kind of made you wonder, where was this the past 3 games? Like, Yankees went 11-4 against the Dodgers, and oh boy, Freddie Freeman again had a 2-run home run. Will Smith had a solo home run, but the bullpen this time for the Dodgers, Daniel Hudson and Brent Honeywell, just Daniel Hudson giving up four earned runs in 1 inning, and Brent Honeywell giving up 5 earned runs in 1 inning. So I mean, just kind of the tail of that. But Gleyber Torres with a 3-run home run, going 1 for 5. Anthony Volpe with 2 for 3 with a grand slam. That was one of the big kind of shifting moments for this Yankees team to kind of take the lead and just keep rolling with it. Austin Wells, the young catcher, 2 for 3 with a solo home run. Luis Gil, still this Yankee starting pitching, four innings, 4 earned runs, giving up 2 home runs. Obviously, they were able to kind of get out with the win there, but I also want to point out a Yankees fan, who was apparently also Rob Gronkowski, former NFL tight end, his college roommate, was trying to take a ball out of Mookie Betts' glove when Mookie Betts made kind of like a wall catch up there. That was very very odd, very kind of like weird. I don't think I've ever really seen that. I've seen like player interference where people are reaching over the wall to like grab a home run ball or something like that, but I've never seen a fan actually try to rip a ball out of a player's glove like while trying to like rob a home run. I just thought that was very odd. And that fan was also banned from going to Game 5 as well.
Yeah, only New York fans. That's what I would say. Or no, I mean, you know, probably a Philly fan, a Boston fan would do a similar thing. But I mean, that was just crazy. And then the story, I think it was Jesse Rogers of ESPN. They wrote a story like almost not praising him, but it was like found the fan that got banned from the game. And it's like, are we really giving attention to this guy that's now banned and, you know, interfered with a player on the... It was just a weird situation. I mean, on that game itself, I mean, the Yankees, it was a bullpen game for the Dodgers. They took advantage. The bats came alive. We started to see that life from Aaron Judge again. We haven't even mentioned, we threw 4 games of this already, and he finally came around in the World Series. But it's one of those things where, you know, too little, too late for him, where, you know, he finally felt like got that, you know, postseason monkey off of his back in a way, but they were already down 1-2, almost 3-0 in the series before he started to produce. And, you know, at that point, you know, he's getting some runs across. He's driving the ball the other way. But, I mean, the Dodgers were doing the same thing.
Yeah, even Juan Soto too. Like Giancarlo, like Gleyber Torres, like we didn't really we expected him to produce, but people expected Juan Soto to like help like be like the Bash brother for Aaron Judge in this sense, and like both of them just did not really kind of come through with this through the series. And then we go into the last game, Game 5, which I mean, Dodgers won 7-6, but it was another odd game. Like the Yankees pretty much had this. They had the lead 5-0 going into it. Aaron Judge went 2 for 3 with a 2-run home run. Jazz Chisholm with a solo home run. Giancarlo Stanton hit a solo home run. I mean, it was looking pretty good, but you have Garrett Cole pitched really well. Like I said, he pitched really well in Game 1, and he pitched really well in this one. But 6 and 2/3, four hits. Jake, I think I've seen maybe three runs given up, 0 unearned. I think like 2. I don't think I've ever seen 5 runs and 0 unearned.
Absurd, especially in a World Series game that they had to win to keep the series alive. And just that, I think it was the 5th inning.
I think it was the 5th inning.
Yeah, just a total meltdown. You have Judge dropping the ball in center. You have the miscommunication from Cole, who, of course, you say the 5, unearned runs, but about 3 of those were on him specifically for not going over and covering first base. Yeah, and then the bobble by Volpe, it was like miscue after miscue, and you can't be making those mistakes. One point that I think was brought up on the broadcast with John Schmaltz and Joe Davis, who did a phenomenal job once again, just like the one team, that the Dodgers, so fundamentally sound with everything that they went through defensively, situational hitting, and then you have the Yankees that are making these errors in the field, these base running blunders. I mean, that's not how you win, especially when the margin for error against another great team it is so small.
Yeah, Jake. The Yankees were charged with three error. You mentioned all three of those. Three errors for the Yankees that led to five. I'm going to say that again. I don't think I've ever seen 5 runs given up, zero unearned, like zero earned. I've maybe like I said, 2, 3. I've seen. I don't think I've ever seen five. That's rid- crazy. That's just crazy to me. But Jack Flaherty came in. He pitched 1 1/3 inning, gave up 4 runs. But I mean, hey, at the end of the day, Freddie Freeman again had 2 RBIs. Mookie Betts had 2 RBIs. Teoscar Hernandez had 2 RBIs. Blake Trinan came in the ninth, got the save, and the Dodgers were able to win the World Series. So kind of for the Yankees, you saw like again 3 errors. Like you saw Juan Soto sitting out in the dugout. Like he's a free agent this year. The Yankees missed their opportunity, and they had a pretty good, strong opportunity to come in and be very competitive with this Dodgers team, and it just didn't work out for them. Like you said, Jake, the Dodgers were just so in tune with each other on the offense, on the defense, pitching. Obviously, with sometimes with pitching, you're going to have some ups and downs, but for the most part, their pitching was really good. And you know that's what wins you World Series is just having everything firing at the same time in harmony.
If I could interject here too, real quick, I just find it funny because leading up to the World Series, I think a lot of the talk was about how the Yankees pitching or starting pitching was superior to the Dodgers, and that was going to be a big advantage for them, and it really wasn't when it came down to it. Other than the two Cole starts in Game 1 and Game 5, which honestly the Yankees wasted both of those with the errors in Game 5, and then in Game 1, their bats just weren't there. Like you said, Sam, the Yankees they did blow this like opportunity, and now they're going into the offseason. You know, Soto's a free agent. Don't know if he's going to want to stay. Roster's only getting older. Guys like Stanton.
Rizzo, they didn't even take Rizzo's player option. They declined his player option.
So I feel like there's a lot of uncertainty going forward for the Yankees, but I just feel like they'll look back and see this as a big missed opportunity in a series that if Game 1, swings the opposite direction and it doesn't go to extra innings, I think you're looking at a different series. But overall, just the bats, like you said, Jake, for the Dodgers, very calm, cool, and collected throughout the postseason, picked their moments, and their pitching stepped up despite all the injuries to their starting rotation. They stepped up in this offseason.
Yeah, and I think one more thing as well. I mean, the Dodgers, they weren't even fully healthy, which is just crazy to understand. You had Glass now who was hurt. I mean, Clayton Kershaw is what he is at this state of his career. I mean,
Walker
you
Buehler
finally
was hurt.
yeah. But I mean, they were dealing with, of course, Shohei not being able to pitch, which that's the whole fun thing next year or a few years from now, getting to see him out on the mound with Yamamoto, with potentially another free agent arm that they're rumored to get as well. So, but I mean, yeah, when it comes down to it, the team with the most talent came out on top. But again, they persevered through some injuries, through some rough moments, came out with the best record. And yeah, for the Yankees, I think you guys hit it right on the head here. With this might have been their chance. Of course, they have Judge long term. They have Cole, for the next 3-4 years. But Soto was so huge for them. If he leaves, we could be talking about another Yankees team that might win some games, but just can't get to this point, which they haven't even been able to in how many years, with him really helping them out through the playoffs. So could be a different Yankees squad we're talking about during next season. Baseball off season is coming up. We'll have some more chatter. Basketball is underway. Sam will be back with some other segments moving forward. Speaking of moving forward, Justin, there have been some changes in the NFL, some injuries, some guys coming back from injuries, teams that continue to surprise us week after week. We are now finishing up week number 10 tomorrow night, going into week 11 next week. What is the state of affairs, Justin?
The state of the affairs in the NFL is it's quite a good season so far. We're having some good games, some bad games, and some games that really leave you questioning things, but we'll get to it all. Don't worry. We'll start, though, with, in my opinion, the current best team in the NFL. No, I'm not talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm talking about the Detroit Lions. They have looked surprisingly good this season. I knew they were going to be good coming in. I didn't know they were going to be this good. They've only dropped one game the entire season. That was back in week 2 against Tampa Bay. The rest of the way, it's been all wins, and it's been their offense, really, that's been leading the charge. Jared Goff has looked really good so far this season. He's connecting with Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's also got Jahmyr Gibbs and got Montgomery in the backfield, and they are the best tandem in the National Football League currently. It seems like each of them are scoring 20 points for fantasy managers in every game, which is crazy because they're both in the same backfield. But if you got one of them, you're probably winning some fantasy games. Good job. So I think that they are an unbeatable offense at the moment, and their defense has also not played bad either. They've been holding teams under 20 points, under 30 points, which has been good enough for them to win games.
Yeah, say what you will about that Packers game, what they did with Jordan Love. I mean, I know he was nursing an injury, but just a dominant performance. And like you said, Justin, the class of the NFC right now, and just building off of last year, Goff again, he's taking care of the football again, which is huge, not making mistakes, finding the check down. And one thing I think that you didn't mention that I want to point out, Dan Campbell, again, who was really rose to the top, and I you can make the case a top 5, top 3 coach in this league, and just the post-game speeches, they fire me up, and I'm not even a fan of the team. This after the game, it's like, give me the game ball, give me the game. They're giving the game ball to everyone. Just his attitude, his mentality, and the way the team, the city, has embraced it. It's fun to watch.
They're a very fun team to watch. Just quick aside, I find it so funny that we're talking about them right now, and they're playing like dog right now against the Texans. But anyway,
the Jinx, the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast.
I know, seriously. But anyway, yeah, the Lions, they're playing great football this season, as you both said, and fun to watch. I think they're a team that, coming into the year, we all expected big things from them after the way they finished last season. You know, it was disappointing losing to the Niners the way they did in the NFC Championship game. But they're back this year. They have that experience under their belt, and they're the top of the class, I think, in the NFC. I think going forward, they're the team to beat in the NFC. And Jake, like you said, Dan Campbell, fantastic coach. I love the guy, and I'm not even like a Lions fan. So they have everything there. It's all in front of them. They just have to continue playing like they have this year. And I think that they'll be in a fantastic position to secure that number 1 seed in the NFC.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Detroit definitely has the best path forward going to the number 1 seed. I think that they're definitely the team to beat right now in the NFC. Let's jump over to the AFC side real quick, though, because I want to talk about a division that it always eludes me every year, this division. Who's going to be the best? Who's going to be the worst? I can't predict it. Let's talk the AFC North, all right? Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers through 10 weeks sitting at 7-2. And the Baltimore Ravens just below at 7-3, but then the Bengals 4-6, and the Browns, they're not even in the conversation. They're 2-7. They might as well put the E on their name right now. They're done. So, I mean, it's just I can't figure this division out because it's yes, the Steelers have a great defense, but their offense is nothing special yet. They're still winning these games with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. No matter who it is, they're still getting wins out of this. And, Baltimore, surprisingly, is not in first place right now. I mean, I understand they've played an extra game, but still.
Yeah, just crazy, and little insight for the listener. Just talking about Russell Wilson making Nate cringe before the podcast started with his renaissance now with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But yeah, of course, Joey and Cameron giving their applause and celebration every week as Pittsburgh continues to win. But I want to look at the Bengals too. 4-6. I know a lot of us were picking them to be right there with the Ravens. With Joe Burrow coming back. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, of course, have been on another level, that offense. But, it goes to show you still got to start strong out of the season. And that first, really, 3 games, they could play, a little bit over 500 the rest of the way and could miss the playoffs because of those first 3 weeks, that patented Bengals struggle to start the season. And it might cost them, but yeah, we'll see how long this Steelers team can keep this up. I know the Ravens are going to be a great team. Their defense, though, kind of concerns me right now, especially as we just saw with Joe Burrow this past Thursday night. If they're going to play against Mahomes, if they're going to play against Allen, these other great quarterbacks in the AFC. But, we'll see how far this Steelers magic carpet ride continues. But we've seen, though, great defenses, going back to the Broncos, Nate, that you remember, great defenses can carry offenses that are, middle of the pack, and that's what could be happening here.
Yeah, and I think that we'll find out a lot about this Steelers team in these final back half of the NFL season. Their schedule gets considerably harder. That started today, obviously, with a trip to Washington where they won by a point, so that was a good win for that Steelers team. But they still have to play the Ravens twice, which I think will ultimately decide who wins that division, those 2 games. Like you said, though, the Ravens, their defense has been questionable to start. It's, been here or there. And the Bengals, I think, you look back early on in the season, those losses really hurt them. But also the 2 games they've played against the Ravens, where they lost by a combined total of 4 points. Most recently dropping Thursday night's game by 1 point when they went for 2. So the Bengals, they might end up looking back on this season as a huge missed opportunity. And they definitely need to improve that defense without a question. But, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, they're holding up their end of the bargain. And I'm sure it's got to be frustrating for those guys seeing where they are, to be complacent just with what they are. So we'll see what happens. But at this point, Steelers, pleasant surprise. And like I said, the Ravens and Steelers, they're going to duke it out here in the final few weeks, see who takes that division.
Yeah, I had, I think it was the Bengals going second in this division, and I had the Ravens going first. Obviously, that is not what it looks like right now. But I can draw a parallel to another division. I'm going to draw a parallel to the NFC East, where I called the Dallas Cowboys at second place, the Eagles in first. The Eagles are currently sitting in first. However, they weren't until Washington took a loss today, which is crazy because I had Washington closer to the bottom. But it seems that Dallas is now the team that is not looking so hot, and Washington is on the rise. And in the coming weeks, I'm not sure, I don't know if they've played yet, but I know that they will be playing Washington very soon, Philadelphia. So we'll see what happens there. But at this point, it's anybody's division. And I don't know. I think that Jaden Daniels is going to put up a real threat to this Phillies team, which has kind of struggled a little bit, especially down the stretch in these games.
Yeah, I think just to point out the division before kind of going into the matchups, of course, the Commanders. Now, since I gave Nate some praise, I'm going to put some praise on myself with Jaden Daniels. I know we talked about it a few weeks ago on the last episode, but just his, and I think, again, the biggest thing, too, watching the game today, just he's making the right decision. He's not forcing passes into tight coverage. He is knowing when to throw it away. He's knowing when to, take a sack if he needs to. He's not, making those bad decisions that we see a lot of even the other rookies that are starting have made from time to time. He looks like a seasoned vet out there that's been in the league for multiple years, and just really taking on the personality of the head coach of Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury, what they brought to this group. Yeah, and it's been great it's been fun. Of course, as an Eagles fan, it's like, the Cowboys are the most hated. Then it's the Giants. The Commanders, I mean, they're a division rival, but it's like they're the team that I'd, want to see have success the most, if you will, out of any of the division rivals. But yeah, should be interesting down the stretch which of these two teams. And on paper, you look at the Eagles and say, well, they should be the ones that, should be handling these matchups, should be taking control. But that's not how games are played. So super excited to see these matchups. But for the Cowboys, just to point that out for a second, I mean, Dak Prescott, brutal injury. It's just, I think it's time for Mike McCarthy to go. It's been a very quick decline off a cliff, and it just seems like the team, we just talked about the Lions, a team that embodies that head coach that seems to be leading the guys. He's just not doing it, and the guys are just not showing up, and the injuries have not helped.
Yeah, definitely not. And this Dallas team, as you said, going forward, there's not a lot to be optimistic about. I mean, Dak is essentially done for the year. Like, as you said, they've been trending downward ever since the end of last season. I mean, getting blown out at home in a playoff game by the Packers, who were a lower seed, with a younger quarterback and is getting his first playoff experience. The Cowboys probably say, I'll just say, I think the season's a wrap for the Cowboys at this point. Things can change. Be honest, they won't. Not with Cooper Rush as their quarterback, and not after what I saw today from their offense against the Eagles. The Eagles, they've played good up to this point in the season, as you said. They're a team that worries me, especially after what happened last season with, the collapse. And we've still seen some issues with the Eagles this year in closing games. Last week against the Jaguars, letting them kind of get back into the game that they looked like they had solidly in their control. So it'll be interesting to see if they can just, get a grasp and learn to finish these games down the stretch. And then you got the Commanders who, they're young, they're gritty, they're tough, and they're hungry to win. Jaden Daniels has been playing out of his mind. I think we'd all agree that he's probably Rookie of the Year at this point in time. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I would lean the Eagles just based off experience, but we'll see. It'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, you guys mentioned those injuries. I just want to talk about everybody's number one overall pick for their fantasy leagues. Christian McCaffrey made his return during this past weekend.
Thank God. It's about time.
Yes, thank God indeed for those of us who have at least one league with him in our rosters. But he didn't look so great on the ground, but he showed his use through the air. Hopefully he can get some more production there. But that's just a quick mention, a quick aside for the 49ers, who need to make a push now with the Arizona Cardinals getting a win today against the Jets and now leading that division. But you also mentioned it basically being the season's basically written for the Cowboys. Let's talk about another division where the season's basically written. Let's talk about the AFC East, where the Buffalo Bills have all but won it. Put the X on the column right there. It is done. The Jets, they lost again today. Miami plays tomorrow, but they've already been swept by the Bills. At this point, it just seems cruel to let it keep going.
Justin is already taking the victory lap, folks. You can mark the date, mark the calendar here in November. Justin is taking the victory lap. But yeah, the other three teams in this division and the Patriots have been playing some better football, to give them some credit, with Drake May and Ramondre Stevens, that incredible catch against the Titans, even though they couldn't come up with the victory. But yeah, I'm just going to focus on the Jets, who everyone had these expectations, as Sam's cat is making a nice welcome back into the frame as we talk about that cat is doing a better job at quarterback than Aaron Rodgers is at this moment in time. I mean, I don't mean to constantly whip him, but he is showing his age. The constant, I've got to change the roster to fit my needs and got to bring in Devontae Adams and, firing the head coach that they were playing solid football under, and now it's just the defense is nowhere near the defense that we saw last season, where you could make the case that they were one of, if not the best defense in the league, and now teams are just running all over. They're putting 30, 40 points every game. It's just a shame. And of course, the Dolphins, it's been more injuries. Their defense hasn't looked great. They just got Tua back, but it might be too little too late, especially for the division. But I mean, the Jets, I think's the biggest disappointment for me.
The ayahuasca is not hitting for Aaron Rodgers anymore.
Nope. He does have the Pat McAfee show. That's what he's holding on to, though.
But in all honesty, Justin, I mean, I know you did pick the Bills, obviously, to win the division, but you yourself can even admit, I'm sure you didn't think that the division would be this poor at this point in the season.
Oh, absolutely. I thought it was going to be somewhat of a dogfight, but I felt that we were going to pull it out due to us having the best quarterback in the division. However, it's not the case. Like, we're so far ahead, it would take a colossal failure for the Bills to lose this division at this point.
Take away the Bills. You could make the argument that this is one of the worst divisions in the NFL, like this season.
Oh, I think that you should definitely be thinking that way, because outside of the Bills, they don't have a team that is worthy of being in the conversation of the top 20 in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So, yes, I completely would agree with this.
It's been rough. It has been rough sledding for the rest of those teams. Like you said, Jake,
I love to see it.
Yeah, as a Bills fan, I'm sure you do love to see it. It's all there for you guys. I mean, as Jake said, take the victory lap already. Without saying, I mean, it's a wrap. Like, you guys have the division locked pretty much. Rodgers, like Jake, you said, he's been poor. He's honestly been terrible. It's crazy to think that the Jets at this point were performing better with Zach Wilson as their quarterback last season than they are with Aaron Rodgers. He got a lot of hate. A lot of people blame him.
And he doesn't demand players to be traded. That's the way.
Exactly.
Trading, forcing the team to trade for your friends. And Zach Wilson did none of that, and he's playing better. He's just messing around with people's moms. That's all.
Listen, there's not much to say, Jake. I mean, it is quite sad and pathetic. That's the Jets organization in a nutshell for you. Sad and pathetic. I mean, let's be honest. I don't got much to say. I have Devontae Adams in fantasy, man. I thought that him going to the Jets would be a good thing. Him and Rodgers might have that connection. Nah, throw it out the window, man. You can't have anything on the Jets. So the Miami Dolphins, unfortunate injury bugs hit them a lot this year. They haven't quite lived up to last year's standard. Yeah, it's been bad all around, except for the Bills, who have looked fantastic for the most part and will definitely be in the mix for the top seed in the AFC this year.
Yeah, listen, in recent memory, the Bills have only swept the division once. That was back in 2020. Well, I'm feeling it coming again. Hopefully we can get that done. We'll probably be sitting a lot of starters. We'll be sitting a lot of starters for those Patriots games, but, there's a chance there. But last thing I want to do is just take a look at the playoff standings so far. Right now in the AFC, obviously the Chiefs are sitting at number 1. They haven't lost yet. Bills at 2, with Pittsburgh sitting in the 3rd spot. And then Houston at 4, with Baltimore, the Chargers, and then Denver taking the wild card spots. I think if it ended today, that would be a pretty fun playoff series to watch. But I don't know. I think we might still get some shakeup there with Indianapolis and Cincinnati trying to make a push for the playoffs here. But I would like to see Bo Nix and Denver make the playoffs for the first time in a few years here. So I'm currently rooting for the Denver Broncos to get at least the 7th seed, if not potentially the 6th seed.
He's been playing really well too, Nate, and I mean, you talking about Jaden Daniels a little bit ago. Bo Nix, another one you kind of saw his struggles to begin with, but now he's taken care of the football. That pass to Cortland Sutton today was dropped right into the bucket, and that defense is back to Denver defense like, and it's great to see, holding the Chiefs to, was it 17 on the infamous now field,
16.
16, yeah.
Would have been 17 if the field, but anyways, 16 regardless with that Chiefs team is fantastic. So I'd like to see it too. Make it happen.
I'm right there with you guys, and as you said, Bo Nix, his development this year, rocky start, but that's expected with any rookie quarterback. I feel like it's always an adjustment. He's really settled in. He's getting used to the Sean Payton offense and the way that they're running things, and he's looked really good. I mean, he's looked comfortable in the pocket, and he has the ability to get out and scramble when he needs to, which I think is a very valuable attribute in any quarterback in the NFL, improvisation and being able to extend plays. So Denver definitely right now are in with, a good shot to be one of the wild card teams in the AFC. I don't know that they'll catch Kansas City just because Kansas City's undefeated at this point. I don't think anybody is going to catch them for that division, but I definitely like the prospects that Denver is facing. Heading down the stretch, they should have won today, should have handed Kansas City their first loss. It's a tough one to swallow, but they'll bounce back, and I like where they're sitting. And as you said, Justin, I think that the mix of teams we have right now in the AFC playoff picture would be very interesting. I'm not counting the Bengals out yet. I think the Bengals can make a push still, just because of the talent they have on offense with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. They have a lot of firepower. They're going to make a push, so we'll see down the stretch who can make it into those wild card spots in the AFC, but it'll definitely be interesting to see.
Yeah, if I can give myself some praise here for a second. If you remember, I called Bo Nix as being one of my boom candidates here. Well, it looks like I might have been right. Since week 5, he's been a top 10 fantasy quarterback. So
Great
credit
job,
where credit's
Justin.
due.
Good
job.
job.
All right, but let's look at the NFC before we wrap things up for the NFL. We got Detroit sitting in the 1 spot, like I said, best team in the league. They're my pick for the Super Bowl on that side. Philadelphia at the 2, Atlanta holding their division in 3, and Arizona also holding their division in 4. Crazy stuff happening here. And then Minnesota at the 5. Crazy that they started 5-0 and now they're not even winning their division. And then Washington and Green Bay with San Francisco, the Chargers, the Bears, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Seattle Seahawks all looking for something, a way to crawl into that 7th or 6th spot. It's still wide open, honestly, in the NFC. I think anything could happen. It's not as closed as the AFC is, so I think that we can definitely see some shakeups here.
It's so wide open that the Chargers are even looking to get in there. I mean, my God.
I must have said the Chargers and meant the Rams.
Yeah,
Nah, you're good, man.
and a point too with the NFC West. We touched on the Cardinals a little bit, but the 49ers. I thought a lot of us thought that they would be where the Lions are, would be that cream of the crop in the NFC. Hasn't been the case. Of course, they've dealt with their own injuries. Of course, with McCaffrey coming back, but Brock Purdy in some games he's looked all right. Other games he just looks rushed, and you kind of see that young quarterback, struggles. But I mean, they're a team to watch. I mean, can they go on this type of run that we've seen them go on before, ripping off 3, 4, 5 games in a row and taking the division? The Cardinals are playing well. The Rams, they're getting guys healthy. The Seahawks, who I know, Justin, you picked a bit higher in second, I think, in this division. They're 4-5, and they're kind of, middle of the pack. Their defense has been a bit underwhelming, but that's another division. That in the NFC South. Those two, I think, those could come down to the final few weeks of the season, but excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely going to be a fun stretch at the end of the season in the NFC. That NFC West, as you guys have mentioned, it's definitely the most interesting division, I think, to watch down the stretch. I think all those teams have a legitimate shout and shot at that number 1, seed in their division. So we'll see who wins it. In the wild card races, it's going to be something in the NFC. Definitely a lot of teams in that mix. So I'm excited to watch it. I think all football fans are.
Yeah, so we're gonna move from one football to the next, guys, going from the professional ranks to college. Got a great season, of course, well, just like the NFL, a little over halfway as we start to creep towards the end of the regular season, looking ahead to those conference championship games. I guess first off, have some rankings here in front, some big matchups over the past few weeks, whether it's Ohio State versus Penn State, whether it's Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, all these tight games back and forth. Guys, I guess first, and your thoughts on how this season has gone. We've seen a handful of upsets, crazy upsets so far.
This season has been a crazy one to say the least, I'd say, Jake. There's been a lot of competitive games, a lot of new fun matchups, especially with conference realignment. The SEC is just stacked, obviously, with Texas and Oklahoma joining. We've seen Texas play Georgia this year in the regular season. In the Big Ten, Oregon and Ohio State. Oregon eking out a win by 1 point at home against Ohio State off of that genius Dan Lanning decision to take the penalty for an extra man on the field. It's been a crazy season, to say the least. A little surprised, I guess I'd say, initially looking at the rankings I would say maybe some of the one-loss teams, like a Penn State, like a Texas, just seeing them ranked where they were. It's going to be tough, and there's going to be a lot of space to work because there's 12 teams getting in this year. So teams with 2 losses will get in inevitably. In the SEC especially, if you look at it right now, I believe you have Georgia now sitting at 2 losses after losing to Ole Miss. You have Alabama sitting at 2 losses. Ole Miss sitting at 2 losses. So all those teams are going to be vying for an SEC title whilst also trying to get into that top 12 to make the playoffs. It's definitely going to be fun to watch going down the stretch, and definitely something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, that whole new element, too. Not only to allow teams from different conferences, of course, to get in, but, of course, all those, other SEC teams that you make the case every year up until this year. Oh, they got robbed. Oh, they had this resume in the top 4. Well, now there's the 12, and now you can get in with 2, 3, maybe if you
3.
got 3.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how everything, just some of these tough games, and not to bring up some sore memories.
Well, you have to bring it up.
The Penn State, Ohio State game a few weeks ago, guys, this was 2 top five teams in the country going at it in Happy Valley. Shocked that this wasn't the whiteout game. I'll start there. The whole, Fox coverage and stuff, that blew my mind in itself, the huge rivalry game. But it's time for James Franklin to go. And this is coming from someone that did not go to Penn State. My father graduated from Penn State. Just watching that game, just the years of watching him and these big games time after time, they just haven't been able to come through, guys.
All right, listen, you know who I am, right? I'm the football guy, all right? I do a lot of NFL analysis. I play NCAA. I play Madden a lot. I know what it takes, especially on offense. Nate, you can attest to this. I know what it takes to run a good offense.
Offensive guru over here, yeah.
Yes. James Franklin does not have an offensive scheme built to win big games. All right? This man will run the ball in situations where you should be passing, and then when he decides to pass the ball, it's a wide receiver screen that never gains more than 3 yards. I saw it all year last year when I went to almost every home Penn State game, and I continued to see it this year against Ohio State. So, yes, you're correct. Franklin, if Penn State wants to take the next step from a good team to a great team, needs to get rid of James Franklin.
I heard a lot of opinions that echoed a very similar sentiment to that, Justin. The night after the Ohio State game, waiting in line at Champs for 2 hours, had a lot of interesting conversations with some very fine gentlemen, I might say, about the state of this team and James Franklin. I do think that, yes, he does need to go, just because we cannot he has not won the big games. It's just plain and simple. Look at his record against top 5 AP ranked teams. 1-13 at Penn State. I mean, it's terrible. We haven't gotten to where we want to get. The frustration of being so close every year, and then the Ohio State game, the Michigan game, they come up, we have these high expectations, and it just feels like the same thing on repeat every year, the same high expectations being met with just utter disappointment, poor play calling in the game, poor decisions in the game, poor performances in the games like those. I was at the game this year, the Ohio State game. I don't know who had the final say on those 3 play calls down on the goal, like the 3-yard line,
It
first
looked
and
like
goal,
the same
second
play.
and goal.
It looked
It
like
was
the same play.
It was the same exact play, inside handoff 3 times in a row. Explain, like, why? Why would
I
you
don't
run
understand it, especially with what Penn State's offense has been doing this season, because they've
Exactly.
looked really great in certain moments. Like, they have done really creative things to get guys, and they're not even doing anything special. They're just moving guys around, getting them in different spots, and they're finding a way to create openings, create blocks, like do something. Like, if you're going to run the ball 3 times, at least do something like that. Move the offensive line out into the wide receiver, bring them in, do something crazy.
Bring Warren in and run the Wildcat with Warren.
Exactly.
Because he's been fantastic in that spot, but they didn't do that once. I don't understand. And then to go for it on 4th and goal, and that be the time where you decide to throw the ball, but you don't run a play for Warren. You try and throw a slant over the middle that's well, protected. It didn't make any sense to me, and it kind of felt like a nail, what should be a final nail in the coffin. But I will say, from this point, as it pertains to James Franklin, I don't think the university will fire him, because the records have been good, 10-2 consistently over the past, few seasons. This year should go 11-1 and make the playoffs. I don't think they'll fire him just because of the success that he has had, and quite frankly, he does recruit well. But still, I don't think that with him as our coach, we will have that success. We will be able to get to the next level of actually getting to a national championship and competing for one. I just don't see it happening, because we just falter in the big games. And it's right there. The tail of the tape is right there. He cannot win big games.
Well, we'll have to see how Penn State does the rest of the season. Guys, I guess my final question, or if we want to, continue this conversation, but right now, of course, we talked about the top 12, looking out at this Oregon at 1, another team of yours, Nate, off to an incredible season so far. Ohio State at 2, Texas, talked about Penn State, Indiana at 5, the Big Ten well represented in the top 5, Tennessee, BYU, Notre Dame, Bama we mentioned, Ole Miss we mentioned, Georgia, Miami fell down to 12. They are on the edge of that top 12. Is there a team that you guys are looking at that's not in that top 12 that you think by the end of the season? I don't know the next time we'll be talking about college football, guys, so I want to see, who are you thinking maybe outside of that top 12? You got some solid teams in there that could push themselves forward and maybe snag a spot by season's end.
I have a couple teams here, Jake, and I'll talk about them both, but I want to preface this. The top 4 seeds in the college football playoff, when it comes to the playoff, are the top 4 conference champions. So it's not the rankings. Yes. It's not the top 4 teams in the rankings. The top 4 conference champions will get the first round buys. So the Big Ten conference champ, the SEC conference champ, the Big 12 conference champ, and the ACC conference champ. I believe it'll be those 4 conferences. I don't think another conference champion will be ranked higher, although Boise State right now is looking very good. I think they have a great shot at making the playoff as long as they're able to win the Mountain West. But I'm looking at SMU, their first season in the ACC. They've played really well. Their only loss was to BYU, who is undefeated in the Big 12. I think SMU will win out. I think that we'll see them face Miami. Miami, who has, let's be honest, looked shaky all year. If you've seen their games that they've played, they've had a couple of big comebacks, especially against Cal, where they were down 25 points and they were able to come back and win that game. I think that the loss that they suffered to Georgia Tech was one that was coming for quite some time now. I think it'll be Miami versus SMU in that ACC championship game. And while SMU is on the outside looking in right now, I think that if they win that conference championship game, which I think they have a great shot of doing, that they'll get into the playoffs as a conference winner and get a first round bye. And then another team I guess I'd say I'm looking at the moment would be the Colorado Buffalo. They're on the outside looking in as well, but they've positioned themselves. They're a 2-loss team in the Big 12. They have a shot to go into the Big 12 championship game at the end of the season and play BYU. And if they win that, they'll be in the playoff. So I think both of those teams who, don't get the national respect, I'd say that some of these other programs do, or national attention, although I guess Colorado with Dion has gotten that attention. But both of these teams who you wouldn't think I think they have a good shot of getting into the playoff right now, despite where they're ranked.
Yeah, those are some good teams too, Nate. I think both of them, SMU, of course, a former member of the American Athletic Conference, the same as Temple, getting to see them up close in their final season in that conference, retained a lot of those same players and on this incredible run. Another one, of course, you've got, Texas A&M in that mix 15. I know it's going to be tough with all these other SEC teams trying to get in, but, they got a chance.
They do still play Texas.
Yeah.
They still play Texas. So if they win that Texas game, I'd say they have a good shot.
Yeah, they got a chance to. And one more that I've got, Army. The Army Black Knights. Don't know if they'll get in. Don't know if they'll get into the top 12. I feel like they'd have to, of course, win the conference championship in convincing fashion. But, guys, we could be coming up on an Army-Navy game that has some really big implications. Right now, both of them at the top of the conference, along with Tulane in the American and Army. Great season.
And it's funny. I believe that they play their conference championship game the week before the Army-Navy game.
They do.
So
it could
they could play
weird.
each other.
Yeah.
They could play each other back to back.
Yeah. I wonder if they'd move. The only thing is if they both are lined up to play in the conference championship, either they make the game the conference championship if it's settled before, or they move it up because that could decide. It would be very interesting. Very interesting.
It would be. Hey, but Army, their biggest game of the season, they have Notre Dame in Yankee Stadium.
If they win that and they win the rest of the season, I'm putting them in. They could be a team that sneaks into that one of those final spots.
Oh, I 100% agree. And because technically the top 5 highest ranked conference champions get guaranteed in. So there will be another conference champion in from a non-Power 4 conference, I guess you'd say. So I think it's either going to be Boise State from the Mountain West or Army from the American. It's got to be one of those two in my mind who will make that 5th highest ranked champion spot. We'll see. I'm excited though. The prospect of Army being in a playoff. Who would have said that a few years ago? Not me, but
they're protecting our nation, and they're protecting a playoff spot. Put it on a T-shirt. Well, that will do it for another episode of the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast, talking about all different types of things. If you like what you've been listening, be sure to like and subscribe for more episodes that we have. And once again, thank you for listening. We'll try and have more on the way. Thank you again for listening to another episode of the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast.